The difference between being a married couple in a blended family and the difference of being a married couple in a biological family unit is as different as driving a car or driving a bicycle. You gotta read, learn, study, grow, listen.
Welcome to the Grace Marriage Podcast. I'm Brad Rhodes.
And I'm Marilyn Rhodes. We're here to help you build a marriage that's stronger, more connected, and full of grace.
I'm Rick Dayton, joining Brad and Marilyn as we bring you weekly conversations designed to inspire and equip you to live intentionally in your marriage.
We'll share practical tips, powerful stories, and strategies to help you and your spouse grow closer and thrive together.
So whether you're just starting out or have been married for years, there's always room to grow. Let's do this together. This is the Grace Marriage Podcast.
This is Brad Rhodes with the Grace Marriage Podcast, and I've got a real privilege today to be with somebody that's impacted thousands and thousands and thousands of marriages, somebody that I've known through other people, through his curriculum, through all the stuff he's done, helps so many people in blended families, but also has resources now for all marriages. So welcome to the podcast, Ron Deal.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here.
Now, if you're a blended family or you just need help in marriage, Ron and Nan's stuff is amazing stuff. I've referred couple after couple after couple. I would say that the leading expert in the field of blended family. How did you get into that? I mean, how did you kind of become the guy for blended families?
Yeah, well, some things we do in life are out of personal story. Actually, The Mindful Marriage, the book we've just written for all couples, is very much out of our own personal journey. We could talk about that another time. My blended family journey has been out of a professional interest. So I got started as a youth pastor, and boy, did I not understand certain kids or their family's background, especially if they had complex family stories. I went back to graduate school, got a degree in marriage and family therapy, and I learned a lot that helped me see inside their world. When I came out of graduate school, this is in 1993 when I graduated, the first thing I wanted to do is when I went back into local church family ministry was try to have an expansive family ministry that didn't just talk to first-time married couples, did premarital work, sure, and families with teenagers, all that kind of stuff. But we wanted to work with single-parent families, and we wanted to work with stepfamilies. And I just started trying. Honestly, Brad, I didn't have a clue how to do it. And there wasn't anybody out there doing it other than one other guy I could find. And he was about to retire from ministry. And so we just sort of had to stumble our way into that space and figure it out. What does it look like to do preventive work for step couples in a local church context? Fast forward about 15, 20 years, people started saying, hey, they're doing it over there. They're doing it. Go and see what Ron's doing. I started writing. Now we're 9 books into the Blended Family, Smart Step Family series. I direct the Family Life Blended Ministry for Family Life, we're the largest blended family ministry in the world. And we just have video, audio, you name it, books, resources, curriculum, ministry equipping and training. We do live events and virtual events every year for couples in step families that churches can live stream for nothing. We just have a lot of stuff, and the field has begun to grow. Other speakers, other writers. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, that's amazing because I did general marriage work personally. And when I work with a lot of couples that are blended, it seems like the complexities and difficulties surprise them.
That's right.
And then they assume there's something really wrong with their marriage when it's more normal than they realize. Is that accurate?
That's very accurate. In fact, I would say to couples, the difference between being a married couple in a blended family and the difference of being a married couple in a biological family unit is as different as driving a car or driving a bicycle. Okay. But a car and you got 4 kids in the back, there's space for everybody and it's contained. It's got if the car rolls for some reason, it's protected, like you're all enclosed the whole bit. You ride together. There's so much working on your behalf. Riding a bicycle with 6 children on the back is, wow, that's a miracle if you can even keep it up, right? And there's balance issues, there's momentum issues. And when you come to a right corner, you don't turn a bicycle anything like you turn a car, right? It's a totally different balancing, turning vehicle. That's what's true about step family living. You can do it. It's a vehicle. It'll go. It'll be fantastic if you ride bikes well. But if you keep trying to steer it and drive it like you would a car, you're going to have problems.
Yeah, and this is so important, not only if you're listening to this and you're a blended family, but if you're not. Because
Mm-hmm.
having an understanding of the challenge of blended families helps you love others, and mercy triumphs over judgment. So a lot of the stuff that I've learned through your stuff and other stuff is when I encounter blended families, it's with a lot more compassion and just realizing
Good.
that the complexities are much greater than I
Yeah.
realized because I've not been through them. So why don't you just tell our listeners what are some of the complexities and difficulties of blending a family that sometimes people don't realize as they're going in?
Well, let me see if I can do this quickly. Okay.
Yeah,
Number
I
one.
know that's a big question.
Yeah. So marriage is very different. Let's just start with the couple's relationship. When a couple walks down the aisle and forms a blended family, it's the middle of the story, Brad. It's not the beginning. I mean, think
Hmm.
about that for a second, right? Every other marriage story is this is the beginning. Husband and wife starting new, leave father and mother, cleave to one another, have children. Children flow out of the couple's relationship. Parenting flows out of the couple's relationship. The home is steadfast. All the children are very invested in mom and dad being in love with each other and loving them. Everybody's invested in everybody else. Blended family, it's the middle of the story. There's been a few chapters already written, and they ended in loss, sadness, death of a spouse, divorce, breakup of a couple's relationship, whatever that narrative is, it ended in loss. But then they're born into loss. What I mean by that is they're born into an ambiguous loss. The couple is now married, but all the kids are saying, okay, that's great for you guys, but what does that mean for me? I mean, who's this guy, Mom? I mean, he's a nice guy and he treats you well, I think, but he's not my dad. I already got one of those. Even if that dad is deceased, by the way, you have not become my dad. There's only one place in your heart for mom or dad. So I don't know who he is. I don't know where he fits. Plus, he has children, my step siblings. I don't know where they fit. I have a step grandparent now. What does that mean for my life? How do we do this? How do we merge rules? How do we merge parenting styles? How do we merge finances? Every one of those layers represents a potential stressor. And
Mm,
so the family is born out of loss into more ambiguous loss about how to do life, the things that are now having to change again for me as a child. I already lost my home, my family, and now we had to move to a different house because mom couldn't afford the same house. Now I got to move into another house, another church, another school system.
mm,
Think about the ripple effects of change over and over and over again. All that makes it challenging to do life, to be married, to be parents, for children to bond, for children to feel safe in the new environment. They're all layers, and layers
mm.
bring stress. There's another factor, and that is, and we're just talking about the couple here. We're
Yeah.
just on number one. All right. What about former spouses? If there were divorce, one or both were divorced, well, then that means children are moving between homes. And any pain that you had in that relationship with that person previously, you're now sharing children with your co-parents. What if that pain carries forward into the co-parenting relationship? And it usually does. So that affects how long we get along, and how we cooperate or don't cooperate. And then that affects the children's mood and their climate, living life, growing up between two households. And then they come over and say, here's your new stepdad, love him. And it's like there's another thing on top of another thing, and it just gets difficult. So often what couples experience is the joy of the wedding, and then life hits. And it doesn't mean they've done anything wrong. It just means all of those layers now begin to roll into reality. And that can be discouraging. It can be disillusioning. It can be, it adds stress on top of a new marriage that they're trying to solidify. And, that just ripples stress into their marriage. A lot of blended family couples who end up divorcing didn't do it because of the same reasons they divorced the first time, but because of the stepfamily stuff that created stress in their new marriage. That's one of the reasons we try to help them understand coupleness does not necessarily equal familyness.
Yeah.
Those are two different things. You got to be a couple, but you also got to learn how to be a family.
Yeah. I've
And
told him.
we
Go
help
ahead. I'm
them with
sorry.
all the above. That's just what I wanted to say.
Well, I've talked to couples, they're blended and they're struggling. I said, look, y'all are really doing pretty well.
Mm.
I said, under the circumstances
Yeah,
that you're
compared
in,
to yeah,
I
sure.
said, you think you're in abject crisis and you're probably doing better than 75% of the couples and you're sitting there, but they presume that's a disaster
Yes.
because they didn't. And there seems like a lot of unanticipated complexities, like grandparents accept former spouse more than new spouse. One kid decides they hate the new spouse for no reason.
But
Plus, you
another child doesn't, then another sibling loves them, right?
and it's just it's just and then all kinds of different unpredictable variables seem to arise, and it's like
Hmm.
you it seems like it's a whole host of unpredictable variables and they don't know which ones they're going to face
That's right.
until it plays out. Would that be?
Yeah. I just finished recording a podcast with a couple for our podcast called the Family Life Blended podcast. And their first Christmas was an absolute disaster because they didn't realize until Christmas morning, all right, kids, time to open the gifts, that dad and his kids and mom and her kids had completely different systems of doing Christmas.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's a mass collision of, well, what's the right way? How are we going to do this? Your way, my kids want this, your kids want that. Like, that reality hit on Christmas morning. And
uh,
in their words, it was a complete disaster, right? Now they learned and they got better and things picked up steam over time. And that's one of the principles we teach is flexibility. And it will take you a while to navigate those rhythms and those traditions and figuring everything out. Stay the course. Don't let the discouragement talk you into thinking, well, we did something wrong here. No, this is just the way it goes. This is
and
what you got to do.
and you hear one spouse, you favor your kids over my kids, then you can have guilt superimposed
Yes.
where the person's really has trouble disciplining the kids because they feel so guilty for what the kids have gone through. Then the new spouse feels like the other spouse is passive. So I guess your point is
Yes.
just hang in there.
Yes.
And
Well, hang in there, but get smart about step family living. Like you gotta read, learn, study, grow, listen, because all of that helps you move closer to one another as husband and wife. Like if you have two totally different parenting styles, for example, and you don't really realize how apart you were until life hits. Well, okay, it's time to go back to the drawing board and begin to figure out how you're going to be a parenting team. What will that look like? I have no idea. It could look a little bit more like his or a little bit more like hers or something in between. The point is, you're not a parenting team leading together until you're a team. And so navigating that space means coming together, finding how to be on the similar page with one another, not everything necessarily be exactly the same, but you got to be more similar than dissimilar because that brings equity to the home, consistency to the home, tells children where they fit and how they belong. And most importantly, it shows that you guys not just are a couple, married couple, but you're partners in leading this family. If you're not partners parenting, you're not going to be partners marriage. Those two things intersect constantly. And so you got to work on those when you find those discrepancies.
Yeah, so with Grace Marriage, we always say, marriage doesn't do well on autopilot.
Right.
It takes intentionality.
Well.
A great way to have a bad marriage is just do nothing and hope it goes well.
Yeah.
I tried that. It doesn't work. So I would guess that in the blended family field, intentionality is probably even hyper important because you superimpose such complexity. So if somebody's blended, they're having troubles, or they know somebody. How do they get intentional? What resources do you have, and what do you do? Because a lot of couples, like, we want a better marriage, we're really struggling. This is a lot harder than we thought it would do. What do we do?
Okay, so let me just say the good news is there is all kinds of resources now. 32 years ago, when I stepped into this ministry space, there was one resource I could find in the Christian community, and that went out of print pretty quickly. Today, I'm happy to say, just within our ministry, and we're not the only people writing and speaking about this now. We've been able to encourage lots of other people to get in the game. I've written 9 books for blended families. Gayla Grace on our team has written one. It's just come out of a devotional. It's fabulous for couples. We have a video series through Right Now Media called The Smart Step Family. That's based on one of my books, and it's available for free. We can give you the link. People can go through our ministry and get access to it, even if their church does not subscribe to Right Now Media. That's the most used curriculum in the world. We also do a live stream every April that churches can host. Couples can sit at home and watch on their phone if they want to, or people can attend the live event. It's a worldwide live stream called Blended and Blessed. And this next year, we're making that free. You can attend from anywhere in the world.
Amazing.
And Do it for free. Your church can host it. You can put 50 couples in the room. They can all be for free. You host for free, everything. It's a one-day marriage seminar that's new every year. We've done 9 of those, Brad. Every one of them is recorded, available for live stream. In other words, you have 9 more video curriculum you can use for small groups on Wednesday night if you get a group of couples together. Like, there are all kinds of things that are available. We have a podcast, so we have on YouTube videos, a whole channel, social media, you name it, it's out there, it's available. Listen, watch, read, group. We want to facilitate that and encourage you to do so. And
How
we
does
train ministry leaders. I got to say that we train ministry leaders. We do an event every fall that's coming up October. We'll do it again in Nashville this year. It's 2 days, 23, 24. And, couples come and learn how to lead a ministry in their local church.
All right, let's rewind a little bit because I want to make sure that people don't miss this. One, how do you bring Blended and Blessed to your church?
Okay, so blendedandblessed.com. That's where it starts. Blendedandblessed.com. Write out the word A&D. And there's a contact list, and you can just reach out to our ministry, and we'll let you know. This happens every April, but now's a good time to start kind of tuning in to what's happening. We're building our team and getting the details of this next year's events figured out. But there's a guide right there on that website that tells you how to host it. And, we have ministry coaches for free that will hop on the phone with you and talk through resourcing and what do you do before, what can you do after, and all kinds of things. The bottom line is less than 1% of churches will do anything for blended families this next year in America. Less than 1%.
That's
And
going to change.
I hope it does.
It
needs
is.
to, because 40% of families have a complex family, step-family dynamic going on in their home. 40%. 114 million people in America, Brad. 114 million Americans have a step relationship today.
And 72% of churches have no marriage ministry whatsoever.
You're
80%
right.
spend no money. That's Communio Barna.
That's right.
So basically, just to tell our listener, give you a little glimpse in the future, 15 years from now, every church is going to have a marriage ministry that's going to serve both regular marriages and blended. It is the new youth ministry, and people are going to realize that you can't serve family well and not serve marriage well. And then I say a children's ministry, a youth ministry without a marriage ministry is a dysfunctional family ministry.
Man, that is well said. I will amen that.
So
it is short-sighted at best to say that we don't have to support couples. We just got to put their kids in a 1-hour Bible class for 1 hour a week. And that's faith training.
I ask churches all the time. I said, how's it going trying to overcome family dysfunction with weekly programming? I said,
good
my wife was a therapist and got a master's in social work, and she counseled with children. And Ron, it's so discouraging because she's like, I'm with them an hour or 2 a week, and I can't get any traction or make any progress because I'm sending them home.
That's right.
And they're in dysfunctional marriages, dysfunctional relationships, they're in blended families, they're in broken families, all these different things. And it's like, I love these kids and I can't make any progress with them.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's, the field of family therapy came out of that back in the 1950s. The psychiatrists were, inpatient treating people who your depression is lifting. Good. We're going to send you home. And they'd go home to, generational dysfunction and go right back into their depression. And they figured out we got to do something to deal with the family. And we're still trying to help the church understand that principle today.
It's gaining traction by God's kindness. I mean, my job at Grace Marriage is getting easier and easier because churches are a lot more amenable. I said, you look theologically at marriage, husband, wife, Christ, the church, Ephesians, Genesis, Revelation, everything. Does it make any sense to do nothing for it? To do premarital, say, good luck. If you ever hate each other and want a divorce, call us and we'll try to talk you out of it and pour $1,000 in you.
Yeah. Brad, so you brought up premarital. Let me just give you another illustration. So premarital counseling within the Christian community has not changed substantially in the last 70 years. So I want you to imagine the average pre-blended family couple walking in, knowing that premarital counseling is only focused on the couple's relationship. It's focused on couple. Okay. So every topic, every discussion is going to be focused on husband-wifeness, if we can say it that way. But coupleness does not equal familyness in blended families. There's a whole nother dynamic going on around them. And so imagine that couple walking in for the very first time for an interview, sitting down with their pastor, and he's going to give them 6 sessions of the same stuff he gave to a couple who's just coming out of college, that doesn't have any debt, no children at all. But this couple has 6 kids between the two of them, each have an ex-wife. So there's 3 households sharing 6 kids. And there's how many sets of grandparents? That's going to be about 8 sets of grandparents. So that's 16 adult grandparents and step grandparents. What do you think Christmas is who's asking for the kids around birthdays? Like that's the stuff that if we don't help them premaritally, we are not preparing them for marriage at
Amen.
all. But we don't change. We've got to change. We have a whole resource around that. Preparing to blend. Excuse me. It's a resource for couples to do. It also doubles as a leader guide for a pastor to take them through. Gives you an entire premarital program in a book. And here's the point: when we begin to really encourage and help people get step family smart, they can have high quality relationships that are grace filled, that teach love, that teach forgiveness, that help right some of the wrongs that adults and children have already experienced in previous broken relationships. That's what God does, is redeem us.
And my encouragement is, like, in this podcast, there's no way we can just have you guide people through all the issues of blended family. But what we can do is introduce people to the resources that can help them. So if you know somebody that's blended and they're getting married, repeat the name of your premarital resource.
Yeah, Preparing to Blend is the name of the book, Preparing to Blend. And that's just one of 10 in our Smart Step Family series.
Yeah, and to do anything well, whether it's marriage, blended family, you've got to get good at it.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't happen by osmosis. It takes intentionality, finding the right resources, finding people that's done it before. So I really encourage our listeners, expose your friends. If you're blended, use these resources. If you're not blended, expose these resources to your friends. If you have a marriage ministry in your church, integrate the blended family resource into your church. But and the sad thing is, I don't think most blended families are really introduced to the complexities until they experience the complexities.
Right. Unfortunately, that's what happens. And there's this common narrative of super excited, you're getting married, congratulations. We actually give you premarital counseling that looks like the first time married couples. And so you walk away from it actually feeling a whole lot better about yourselves, but not knowing any more about being a family or about step parenting or step sibling bonding or anything. And so within 6 months, there's this discouragement and disillusionment that's sort of set in on the couple. And they're just thinking, man, did we do the wrong thing? And the answer is no. You didn't. Now you need some guidance. You got to get very intentional about the step dynamics going on in your home so it doesn't, add stress and pull you apart as a couple. But once you get smart, that's what we call it, the smart step family, smart step mom, smart step dad. Once you get smart, then you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I can't tell. I mean, blended marriages that I've done crisis counsel with, I said, you're not broken, you're normal.
Yes, that's
I'm
right.
like, you think you're broken and it's almost over, but you're not. You're like every other couple in this very situation, muddling through these complexities, trying to figure it out like every other couple.
Yeah.
And we point them to resources. And then when they realize, Scripture says, if you're married, you will have much trouble. So
Right?
if you're blended, you'll have very much trouble. It just adds a very to it, But to encourage, some of the very best marriages I've seen are second marriages. I think this big myth is that, second marriages are always going to be subpar. There's something, there's a myth about the divorce rate among second marriages with the statistics are overblown and not accurate. Two, people assume that they're starting out way behind, and that's not necessarily the case, is it?
No, it's not. It's not. Again, there's just different complexities, and understanding those, the impact they have, what you can do about it, what you can't do about it. There's some things you can't do anything about. You can't do anything about your former spouse's new spouse and how they parent. Like, not directly, you can't do anything about it. Indirectly, you can have influence just by trying to be Jesus and love well from a distance through the kids. You can make a difference in those spaces, but there's some things you just don't have control over. But how you react and respond and how you're going to contain yourself within your family, within your household, that's what really makes the difference.
And it's neat how God calls certain people different places. So for Grace Marriage, we saw that there was no ongoing marriage ministry platform. That's like you can institute an ongoing dedicated marriage ministry. So we developed 7 years of curriculum, changes every semester for 7 straight years to fill that ministry gap. And it's neat how the Lord showed you a gap of the blended family gap that the Lord's used you to not only fill the gap, but encourage others, because Grace Marriage can't fill that gap. Ron Deal can't fill that gap.
Yeah, that's why we need each other, brother. Right?
Exactly. And so I'm so excited. Thank you for being on the podcast. I've always been extremely grateful for your work, because I have somebody to point people to, somebody to point people to that even though I don't know you till today, that I trust. And so thank you so much for your ministry. Before we leave this podcast, somebody's listening, what's the one resource you would be like the first place somebody go that could kind of open them up to other resources?
Yeah. So go to my personal website, rondeal.org, rondeal.org. And basically that is a page that platforms you to everything else that we're touching. So I got a personal Smart Step Family webpage, but Family Life is the main ministry I'm working with all kinds of blended materials and resources. And you'll get connected to all of that. And you can see what's live, what's personal, what's, a book, podcast, etc. rondeal.org is a great starting place.
Great. Well, Ron, thanks for being on the podcast. And more than that, thanks for the impact you're having for the kingdom and how you're helping a lot of people through some difficult terrain.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us on the Grace Marriage Podcast. We really hope you're feeling inspired to take intentional steps to grow in your marriage.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us spread the message of grace and reach even more couples.
And if you have a moment, please leave us a review. Your feedback means a lot to us and helps others discover the podcast.
To learn more about how you can grow in your marriage, visit us at gracemarriage.com. Keep building stronger, grace-filled marriages.
We'll see you next week on the Grace Marriage Podcast. Until then, keep growing in grace.